Isaiah 51:17, it says, "Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, yeah, Yerushalayim, city of peace," right? It says, "Which has drunk at the hand of Yahweh the cup of his fury. Thou hast drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling and wrung them out. There is none to guide her among all the sons whom she hath brought forth, neither is there any that taketh her by the hand of all the sons that she hath brought up. These two things are come unto thee. Who shall be sorry for thee? Desolation and destruction, and the famine and the sword. By whom shall I comfort thee?" They experienced that when the Romans when the Romans had besieged Jerusalem and successfully overran it in 70 A.D. They did just that. All right, made it desolate, man. They made it desolate. The Israelites that was in Jerusalem at that time had to go through the famine. They had to experience cannibalism. All right. Matter of fact, it tells you that in the book of the curses. Well, matter of fact, I'm gonna hold that. Let's read some of the let's read some things about the famine, cup of trembling. Because that goes right. Let's go right to the Roman Empire. When they seized Jerusalem, they had a rough period of 7 years where, with a heavy campaign to overthrow it was like, what was that, 66 A.D.? All right, and then they successfully overran it in 70 A.D. But then the most heinous atrocities that was going on lasted from 66 A.D. to 73 A.D. That's when there was this whole dark period for the land of Israel and the Israelites that was at Jerusalem. The whole dark period. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15. "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and the statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." Now, let's go down to the verse starting at 49. It says, "The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young." And when the Romans entered into the land of Israel, they did just that. They would go to each city, through the city walls. I'm gonna say like that. Each city wall they broke down, they would actually torture and slowly murder Israelites, man. Whether it was old men, women, and children, or young children, they would do that to them. All right, I read one account, they was taking Jake babies, man, and they was bashing their heads against the stony walls. Those bash their head to the ground or to pavement, man. Killing little Israelite babies, man. The Romans didn't show no mercy on Jake at that time, man. That was at Jerusalem. All right, it says a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kin, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. And they was doing that. Each city wall they would break down, they would actually eat the food, and if they ain't eat it, they just burnt it all up. All right, just basically, that's where that savagery really come from, man. Just being all out savages, because even when even the Persians and Medes allowed Jake to even keep ordinances and even go back to the land of Israel at times to keep the high holy days and even keep up with the temple. But when when Esau came into power as the Greeks and then the Romans, he didn't have any kind of mercy on them, because I believe it was Cyrus. I believe it was Cyrus that allowed Israelites to go and travel to the land of Israel and to keep up with the temple and perform priestly duties within the temple and to rebuild up things that was destroyed in Jerusalem. All right, just to keep up with that as well, because like the temple was like the most holy of holies. All right, it was vast. It was very beautiful, made with pure gold, pure silver, and other vast things it was made with. Right, it was very colorful and beautiful as far as the temple goes. And so, it was a big thing with Israel, man, to keep up the temple. All right, even when the Romans besieged it, you had a lot of Israelites that stayed to defend the temple. All right, before it was overran by Vespasian, and his son entered. His son Titus entered into the temple and burned it down. All right, and they took many goodly things out of the temple and sold it for monies, for riches, basically. Because things within the temple was priced and worth a lot of money. All right. Well, I'm at now, verse 52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. So basically what happened was you had it where the Romans, they actually besieged Jerusalem, where they had cut off entry and exit points so food couldn't come in. They cut off the water supply, so Jake couldn't really eat. They couldn't eat anything once the food storehouses ran low and it was eventually empty. That was it. And then by them cutting off the clean water supply that come through the city, Jake couldn't have anything to drink. So while they was trying to protect the temple, with the Romans on their backside, all right, they was basically just very very faint during them times of battle. Even though they fought valiantly, even though Israel fought valiantly, they still was overthrown. All right. Verse 53. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, and thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God, Yahweh thy power, hath given thee in the siege and in the straitness wherein thine enemies shall distress thee. Right, and the Romans heavily distressed Jake, man. They had to where Jake was so distressed that they actually had to eat their own body, meaning they had to resort to doing cannibalism. All right, so cannibalism, was a deep, dark time. Like I said, it was pretty much, it was no green herb or nothing around for Jake to eat. They had eaten up everything, including all the animals. So the next thing they turned to was their own children. All right, and that was a very sad and dark time for Jake, man. All right. Verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children which he shall leave, so that he will not give to any of them the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat, because he had nothing left in the siege. And in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. Yeah, so basically, it got to a point where they started doing cannibalism, and then, other Israelites looking at other Israelites' kids, to eat, man. That's a part of the history. That was a part of the history, man. Jake, Jake had it tough, man. And then to be overthrown after you done gave all you had, resorted to cannibalism, and then those on that survived that didn't commit suicide, they were actually tortured to death, and then the ones that wasn't tortured to death, they was sold as slaves, man. All right, they were sold as bondmen and bondwomen then. All right, so that's something that actually took place, and that was 70 AD. All right, spring of 70 AD. Like spring going to like something. Some scholars say they say April. Some scholars say April, but more importantly, it was spring, Because one thing about the heathen, they would always try to attack Jake around high holy days. Like spring, you got Passover, you got I believe it's the first fruits. Those two high holy days, like the beginning of the year for Israel, during springtime. All right, which is the beginning of the year. When things spring forth, that's the new year. Then you have the Passover. That's the first month. The 10th to 14th day. You got first fruits feast. The first fruits of feast. All right, when you offer up you give offerings to the Most High. All right, you give up the best male sheep within the first year without blemish, or if you got a male goat without blemish the first year. All right, you would do those things. You would make an offering for the Most High. All right. And this is the book of Luke, because when Yahushua came, he actually spoke about what I read to you in Deuteronomy 28 chapter. Yahushua himself spoke of these things. Basically, I read the curses, and Yahushua, when he came on the scene, he basically was reminding Jake that the Romans was going to make Jerusalem desolate. All right, this is Luke chapter 21. Let's see. St. Luke chapter 21 and 5. And as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said, as for these things which ye behold, the days will come in the which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Now, what Yahushua was referring to is that the Romans, when they entered into the temple, they was going to break down the temple. And they did. And not only the temple, the city walls. They used those battering rams, basically big large hooks made of often iron and basically they would throw them on top of the walls. Because back then you had city walls, and within the city walls you had city walls that cut off or basically made sections of the city. You know, so basically you had the city walls around the city, and then within the city you had dividing walls. They knocked down all them walls with battering rams. Battering rams was, like I said, the big iron hooks. They would, they would shoot it over the wall. Then you have a big, large, tightly knotted rope, and they would use, animals and men to pull and the hooks came on the wall, and they would actually pull down the wall. And that's how they was able to successfully penetrate Jerusalem. And they got into the the temple, or the holy city temple courtyard. All right, and they did the same thing to that. All right, like I said, Jake fought valiantly, man, but them Romans was too much for Jake. They had overwhelmed him, man. You got tens of thousands of waves of soldiers coming at you, and what Jake would do was they would win small scrimmages and surprise the Romans, and then sometimes they would win large scrimmages. But the Romans would always regroup and recounter with more soldiers. All right. Hello? Hello? Hey, what's up, bro? I'm busy right now, bro. I'm busy teaching right now, so let me call you right back when I'm done teaching. All right, cool. You need to be down here. Anyways, though, like I was saying, so basically, the Romans was just too much, man. So you had it where they was breaking down the city walls. Jake already famished and thirsty. They didn't have really energy and strength to fight, but they still fought. And the waves of Roman soldiers kept coming and coming. All right, it was basically only a few. I mean, he had small platoons of Israelites that fought, but they was small in numbers. All right, they was very small in numbers, and then the Most High allowed the Romans to overthrow Jake at that time. All right, it was time for Jake to go down. All right, so continuing on, verse 7 it says, "And they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be, and what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, Take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed. And the time draweth near, go ye not therefore after them. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not yet by and by." And that was going on. You had it where you can apply that to now and even back then, because you had a lot of wars going on back then, because the Roman Empire was constantly warring with the different nations as well to keep their hegemony going. All right, their dominance. All right. It says verse 10. Then said he unto them, well, let me jump down. Verse 13. Let me jump down to verse 16, it says, "And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death." Now, one thing about Jake, one thing about our people is you always had sellouts among our people. including Josephus. Josephus was a sellout Israelite. And you even had that today. You know, most of our people are sellouts, man. I mean, that's just a fact. Most of these Negro, Latino, Native Americans are sellouts. And they're going to do the same thing this time around, too. But during the Roman Empire, right, it was mainly the Southern Kingdom over there. You had, like I said, small portions of Jakes over there of the Northern Kingdom. But mainly it was damn exhaustless, man. Mainly it was the Southern Kingdom of Israel over there at the time, you know. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, running into small portions of the northern tribes, you know. And they was the main ones that's over there, you know. So they was turning each other to basically save their lives or hopefully be granted mercy by the Romans. That was actually going on, all right? Because the Romans, they made you put down the laws, commandments, and statutes, and continue, you know, and continue in their customs and practices, which they had all kind of idols set up in the Roman Empire. All right, Jupiter, Mars, what was it? The goddess Athena. You know, they had all kind of idols set up in Rome. You know, the pagan Romanism, Roman paganism. I'm sorry. All right, they had that going on a lot. It says. Jump down to verse 20. It says, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Yeah, you know, Yahweh Shah was basically quoting what I read in Deuteronomy 28th chapter. All right, when Jerusalem would be compassed around with armies, or compassed about with armies, that somehow the Roman armies had closed in on Jerusalem. They had it surrounded. They had it totally surrounded. All right, you had a fleet of soldiers, man, just completely surrounding, you know, Jerusalem. And they closed in and on in until they got to the temple, man. And they eventually penetrated the temple courtyard and destroyed the temple again. All right, so Jerusalem was actually destroyed. It goes on to say, it says, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Jerusalem flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter therein too. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So that's what was being fulfilled. You know, what was that? Deuteronomy 28 chapter, verse 49 through about the 55th, 56th verse, I believe it is. But basically, the siege. Because you go to the same precept, or the precepts I read out of Deuteronomy 28 chapter, it's all going towards the siege. All right, the siege of Jerusalem. And that's what Yahweh Shah was speaking on. He said things have to be fulfilled. Okay? Now, let's go to Daniel chapter 9. The book of Daniel chapter 9. Let me turn the page. Daniel chapter 9 and verse 20. Let's start at verse 25. Daniel 9 and 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore it and to build Jerusalem until the Messiah, the prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks, shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and until the end of the war, desolations are determined. So that's what happened, you know. Destroyed the city and the sanctuary, going into the temple. All right, that was like I said, the most holy of holies, man. You had the Levites. They performed their priestly duties daily. They had daily duties they would do. All right, they would keep the temple up. You know, they had certain things to be kept up, whether it was like wine or fire burning or you know the daily oblations, you know, different things, man, that the priestly duties had involved in it. You know, they would actually perform those duties because that was a commandment. That was a commandment that was given from the Most High through Moses to Aaron and the sons of Aaron and the whole priestly duty, or whole priestly lineage. I'm sorry. All right, so that was something that was a commandment, man. That they keep up with the priestly duties within the temple. All right, they was in charge of upholding the ark. 'Cause I believe the ark was in the temple as well. All right. Let's see. That was one of Jeremiah I want to touch on real quick. Let me grab it up real quick. And Jeremiah. Just let's go. Jeremiah, I'm sorry, chapter 25. Jeremiah 25 and 15, and it reads, For thus saith the Lord power, for thus saith Yahweh power of Israel unto me, take the wine cup of this fury at my hand, and cause all the nations to whom I send thee to drink it. And they shall drink and be moved and be mad because of the sword that I will send among them. Then took I the cup of Yahweh's hand and made all the nations to drink unto whom Yahweh has sent me, to wit, Jerusalem and the cities of Judah and the kings thereof and the princes thereof, to make them a desolation and astonishment and hissing and a curse as it is this day. So pretty much, you know, those were some of the things that was going on, man. Like I said, you know, they made Jerusalem a desolation, man. All right. Let's see. Let's jump over to this is the book of Jeremiah. All right now. Jeremiah 34 and 22. Behold, I will command, saith Yahweh, and cause them to return to the city, and they shall fight against it and take it, and burn it with fire, and I will make the cities of Judah a desolation without an inhabitant. So what happened was pretty much the Most High made sure of his word. You had it where, you know, Jerusalem became a desolation, man. All right. It was a very dark time, man, because you know, the desolation meant that, you know, you would have a lot of bloodshed involved. Because when something is made desolate, it's destroyed. All right? And Jerusalem was, the temple of Jerusalem that was in Jerusalem was destroyed by the Edomites. Let's go to the book of, what's that, Second Esdras. Excuse me, got the cheetah. Let's grab this out real quick out of this Esdras. Second Esdras 4, Second Esdras 4 and I'm sorry, First Esdras 4 and 45. It says, well, let's start with let's start at 43. First Esdras 4 and 43. Then said he unto the king, remember thy vow, which thou hast vowed to build Jerusalem in the day when thou camest into thy kingdom. In the day when thou camest into thy kingdom. This is a time period during the Persians and Medes, man. And you had Cyrus was actually ruling at that time. It says, verse 44, and to send away all the vessels that were taken away out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus set apart when he vowed to destroy Babylon, and to send them again thither. Thou also hast vowed to build up the temple, which the Edomites burned when Judea was made desolate by the Chaldees. Yeah, man. The Babylonians, all right, they was they was basically they had took Jake down. Jake went into captivity under the Babylonians, and they Jerusalem was desolate at that time, and some of the goodly things was taken at that time. But then the Edomites ended up burning it down, or ended up burning it down. It says, verse 44, to send away all the vessels that were taken out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus set apart when he vowed to destroy Babylon, and to send them again thither. Thou also hast vowed to build up the temple, which the Edomites burned when Judea was made desolate by the Chaldees. Yeah, so, the Edomites, man, are number one on the Most High list. That's why you read the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. You look up Edom, it says that she's the only neighbor of the Israelites that was not promised any mercy. All right, when it comes down to them being judged, the Most High ain't gonna show mercy in judgment. All right, because the Edomites, which are the so-called white people today, man, begin with your elites, the chief tribe Amalek. All right, Amalek. You guys have destroyed a lot of goodly things that was made to the Most High, man. All right, the Most High said he's going to avenge himself of his adversaries. All right. So, number one adversary of the Most High and the Son, and even us,